Good morning and welcome to Success Happens. This is Jen, and you are seeing our first ever video podcast of Success Happens. After all these years, we're getting with it. So I just wanted to say it's great to have this opportunity to be seen and to speak with you from in front of the camera. And we're going to see how this all works out. But thank you for being a part of Success Happens and listening and now viewing the show. I have with me today a number of different guests, and what we're really dealing with this morning is the impact of COVID-19 and what I'm calling the collateral damage. So there is so much going on right now in the world, and in particular in our communities, in our cities, in our towns, where municipalities and county governments are running our lives. And as somebody who is a small business owner who thinks, I may not get it always right, but I've done okay for myself, so I must be getting some of it right. And here we are being told by people who frankly may have never owned a business how we should run our businesses. And it's really unacceptable to me. And I have a lot of respect for people who run for office. It takes a lot of courage to get out there and run for office, and then frankly, to be beloved enough to get elected. That takes something too. So that's not a slam on people like the county executive or the county council members, except that I think it needs to be tempered with, are you hearing the people? Are you bigger than the people, making decisions for the people? And so I have with me today somebody I admire greatly, who's a warrior, who's courageous, who's a survivor, and who was actually my first interview on Success Happens. And I have with me back today, Danny Farrar, president and owner of Soldier Fit, co-owner actually with David Posen. And it's great to have you back, Danny. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Yeah. And, you and I, as a full disclosure to the audience, you and I are in business together. My husband and I own Soldier Fit in Edgewater. And it's been an amazing journey being a part of a mission-driven company that provides a great service and really attends to the brand. And I have really high regard for you. And, the other thing I'll say in reference to kind of what we were just talking about from the political side, you hear us. If I call you and say, you know what, Danny, have you thought about this? Or I have a concern about that. You hear me. And it's so important that we hear each other. If we're going to be successful, if we're going to make success happen, we have to hear one another and be able to adjust, because there's always new information coming in. So I wanted to give you an opportunity, first of all, to give me kind of a sense of where you are as a business owner as in this current climate of COVID-19 and economic shutdown.
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, one of the things that has shocked me the most about this when I talk, and I'm the biggest advocate on earth for business, especially small business. If there's one thing that has shocked me about some people out there is the amount of people that just froze during this time and didn't try to problem solve their way around it and kept waiting for, ultimately what I think they were waiting for was governmental help. And I think we've had proof that the government isn't going to save you at no level, right? So the big thing aspect of it is you do have to do a pivot. I hate that word. It's my most hated word of 2020. I feel like we've pivoted until we're back at the same spot, right? But, we're in an industry that, was, in my opinion, and I think the data supports this, has been unjustifiably villainized, right? As, we're first in the line of restrictions or closings, and we're last to be able to open back up to capacities. And there are just countless studies that show that gyms are not where these outbreaks are happening or where people are picking it up at. So, I know our industry was hit. I mean, I was cut daggone near in half when the lockdown happened. And so for me, as we started to go to this second wave, and I think the part that frustrates me the most about all of this is that I feel like some people are acting like shocked that there was a second wave. Like we knew there was going to be a second wave. I mean, if you look at precedents, and if this vaccine that they roll out, if they didn't have the vaccine, there would be a third wave. The Spanish flu came in 3 waves. The second was the worst wave that there was. And I know one thing that I tell people is I'm not here to die on the hill about wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. I'm like, listen, wear the mask, socially distance, allow business to do what business needs to do, and get there. And if there's a potential for a precaution to help you, then let's take that precaution. But the Spanish flu of 1918, they didn't close the economy, and that's why their economy did not take the hit that ours has already taken. I mean, and you talk about collateral damage. I mean, I think it's a beautiful name for it. I mean, 1/3 of businesses in New Jersey have shut down permanently.
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And I think it's also incredibly irresponsible. And it's also very short-sighted. I mean, to your point, we are creative people. Entrepreneurs by design are people who get it done. And we get it done in the most creative, cost-effective way we can, far more so than government. So where are they coming off telling us they have a better solution than us? It just doesn't make sense.
Well, to me, and listen, I try to temper my critiques of people, because you're right. Like it does take courage to step up and run for office. It does take courage to sit there and say, hey, I'm going to help lead in the community. And maybe it's because I've been a soldier. Maybe it's because I've been a firefighter. I've seen a lot of death in my life. I have a very clear understanding that none of us are getting off this rock alive. And I want to help and save as many people as possible. I mean, I have a nonprofit that's committed to saving lives in the term of suicide. So I want to do that. But I also understand that we have to temper that with what good is it for a man to live if you've killed his dreams, right? Like, and when we sit down here and we're looking at a state where the thing that everyone throws up in the air, and they said this repeatedly on the county council, we have to save lives, we have to save lives. You're trading lives. Please accept that. Like, suicides are up.
Well, let me just piggyback on a couple of things you're saying before we move off of that. First of all, my grandfather was born in 1899. And when he was toward the end of his life, they said to him, you know what, you can't have chocolate chip cookies anymore. It will kill you. He said, I will die with the crumbs in my mouth. Right? So to your point, people get to choose. People get to choose how they live and how they die. And the argument is, yeah, but public health and what you do impacts others. Well, we know that masks work, to your point earlier, so wear a mask. As one of my coaches used to say, wear a damn mask. It doesn't matter. Just do what you got to do, and I'll do what I need to do. And, it could be said that socially distant, maybe we're a little crammed in some restaurants anyway, so it's probably not a bad thing. They're giving us a little more space. But that being said, I just wanted to mention that because, we do get to choose our live, our die. And I think that gets lost in this conversation. So go ahead, Danny. I'm sorry.
And to your point, though, right, Kai Hagan on the county council, he actually said something I thought was profound, but I don't think he meant it the way that I took it. He said, it's not the restrictions from the government that are killing the business, right? It's the virus. Well, I mean, you're in my business. You've seen what Frederick has done. Frederick has broke records. We signed up 85 people in January, right? If the virus is what kills is what's going to keep the numbers down, then you don't even need restrictions, right? If that is truthfully, if that's the truth that you want to hang your hat on, is that the virus is changing the way that people operate and the way they go, and to the point where that's what's slowing the business down, then don't bother with the restrictions.
Correct. It naturally happens.
Yeah, it naturally happens. Right? But that's not the case that I have seen. I was like, there are people, when you talk about that choice, and I do think that freedom of choice is a very important aspect. You very much can choose to stay home, right? And not go out. And again, listen.
Many people have, and frankly, they're suffering. I want to get back to your point about the depression. Many people are suffering depression because they're so fear-driven. They're so catatonic from this. They won't, I've spoken to people through the gym, members, prospects, like, oh no, I'm not leaving my house right now.
Yeah.
And then they wonder why they're depressed. So I want to talk, Danny, about suicide because you're an expert in that. And I want to mention Platoon 22 and the important work you're doing there. I want people to have an opportunity to support Platoon 22. Start with what you're seeing in terms of the numbers in suicide, please.
I mean, the problem that we have with seeing in terms of numbers is the U.S. doesn't report its data up to date. As a matter of fact, I just shared an article recently. Japan is one of the only major economies that reports their numbers in real time. Now, granted, Japan hasn't had the level of cases or deaths that we've had. However, more people committed suicide in October in Japan than COVID killed the entire year, right? And we already knew suicide in America, the 10th leading cause of death in America. It's already one of our major killers.
Before COVID.
Before COVID. So, and we saw that it used to be, the median age used to be where people started having suicidal ideation was around 26. That number has dropped to 15. So what do you think is going to happen with all of these people that are locked down and shut down? And we also talk about, the collateral damage. In July, the reports were out that 6.1% of this nation was in some form of default on its mortgage. That was in July. And I've told people my concern, especially the notion of another lockdown, is we are living in a fake economy right now. It's a mirage because there are so many people that are still in their house for one reason and one reason only. It's a state of emergency, and forbearance keeps them from being evicted. What happens when we lift that state of emergency, right? And now these people can be evicted. And that's on the private side. Imagine the corporate real estate side, right? All of these businesses.
They've gotten crushed. Corporate real estate is crushed.
Right? So for me, my point to folks is that the only option you have, and this is the area where I took so much, I took such an offense to what both Councilmember Fitzwater and Councilmember Donald said, is that they passed the buck to the federal government side and said, well, they can just print money. I'm sorry, that's not how it works. You can't just print money. There's this little thing called inflation, right? Where we devalue the dollar. Like just printing money is not the answer.
That's coming. That's coming. Right? It's going to happen.
Yes. And printing money is not the answer to this. Like I was asking the Frederick News Post yesterday, how would I feel about a stimulus package? Of course, a stimulus package will help in the short term, but all we're doing is kicking this can down the road. There has to be a product, good, a service that is exchanged in terms of money, and that's the economics of it, right? For us to be able to actually have a real economy. The government just milking you a few dollars, that's not real. And at some point in time, that chicken comes home to roost.
Well, you are opening a whole can of worms when you bring up some of this, because I firmly believe, and I've done enough on the research and I've had experts on here talking about it, that if you want to kill a capitalistic society, go after small business.
Oh, yeah.
You want to bring us down, go after small business. You want a global economy, a global order, or whatever they're talking about in that nonsense, go after Main Street. So we have to fight as small businesses. So I want to get to that right now. You know, we have to fight as small business owners for what's just and right and constitutional. So let's go to, before we move on though, I do want you to mention Platoon 22. How can people donate to Platoon 22? Because the work you're doing for veterans, 22 a day, right, it was the estimate. I imagine that's higher now. I don't know if you know that research, if it's gotten higher.
Again, we don't do research and release it in real time. I expect that the number is going up. I never expected that 20 or 22, whichever report you look at, was valid anyway for a list of reasons. As people don't report it as suicide because of the shame from it. There was at one point in time, there was an insurance concern with it. Drug overdoses that could very easily be intentional or automatically not listed as suicide. So I think the number is probably much, much higher. And we know that drug overdoses are up rather dramatically. So, I mean, if they want to support the Platoon 22 fight where we combat veteran suicide, and we're building the first ever Platoons Veteran Services Center right here in Frederick, they could head over to platoon22.org. And if you really want to get behind it, I recommend on social media, you can start your own fundraiser yourself. Just jump on, click to donate, look up Platoon 22, select us as your nonprofit, and challenge your friends and family to donate that way.
Okay, very good. So I want to talk about Bear the Burden, and I want to set this up by letting you know that just yesterday, I happened to connect with a woman who requested to friend me on Facebook and learned through her post that she was helping a family who was living in a hotel, 2 children high school age, was selling their things so that they could pay their food and try and stay in the hotel. They were being evicted that morning and were off to finding another hotel. So I, along with Robin, got in communication with her. We connected them to Religious Coalition. God bless Religious Coalition. They're working with the family to help them get free housing, shelter, until they can get on their feet. He lost his job. He's not gotten his unemployment check. And here they are months later, barely hanging on. It is so heartbreaking. So it's not only commercial real estate that's gotten crushed, the people have gotten crushed. And I want to talk about Bear the Burden, Danny. Tell us, first of all, why did you start the organization and the mission? If you would, please just share it with our listeners.
Yeah, I mean, for us, the main thing, I'm actually upset that I feel like I started it too late. Our mission is to ensure that all businesses, both large and small, bear the same burden of restrictions and limitations at our local and national government, and to eliminate the hypocrisy and ensure an equal opportunity for all of these businesses to survive. Again, Fitzwater at the county level said, you can go watch, I'm not making it up, you can go watch the video. She said, well, it's harder for these large businesses to enforce their capacity, and it's harder for the county to enforce it on them. What are you talking about? Walmart posted $5 billion in excess of its profits, in excess of its expectations, right? They have the money to put somebody at the front door. If I can find a way to keep how many people can come in my door, Walmart can afford to have somebody that sits there that clicks and counts you, right? And it's insane to me that they threaten to fine and lock up small business owners who are simply trying to make a living, and you drive by. Don't tell me you don't know. You drive by Costco, you drive by Target, you drive by Walmart, and the parking lots are full. Do not tell me you can't have 25 people, more than 25 people outside, but somehow you're allowed to have 300-400 people in Walmart. The hypocrisy of this is just mind-numbing to me. And we looked at the first lockdown, right? You see Target having Black Friday sales numbers every day of the month. Why? Because they were the only game in town. And, people will be like, well, they sell groceries. That's how they get by. Cool, player. I'm fine with that. Then lock down the rest of the store. And the only thing you can sell in that big footprint you got is groceries. And let's see how fast we stay locked down. Because when those big entities would be getting hit, you can bet your bottom dollar there would have been pressure at every level of government to open us back up. But there's no voice, and that's where the frustration comes with me on small business. There's no voice at the table at any level of small business sitting here that is doing, that is having any conversation on this. And I have yet to meet one person. I ain't met one person. If you're out there, please call in and tell me about yourself, because I ain't met you yet, that is not collecting a full paycheck that is screaming lockdown, add more restrictions. I ain't met one of them, right? It's only the people that get a full paycheck, they work at a government job where they can work from home and nothing is affected, that are going, hey, let's lock it down. Everybody go back. Let's be safe. Let's save all the lives.
All right, so I want to take us to a break, and we're going to come back because we have more to talk about here. And I just really appreciate your expertise and, frankly, your passion to make sure that this gets handled appropriately. You're listening to Success Happens. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Amjack Designs, KW Photography and Design, Sweetie's on the Creek, We're Scooping Now, and Dianovich and Associates, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Success Happens. This is Jen, and I have with me today Danny Farrar, who is the CEO of Soldier Fit and runs the Frederick and corporate locations. And he's a major business owner here in the Frederick County, mid-Maryland area. And we're talking about the notion of the inequitable, I'll call it distribution of support for business in the current climate of COVID, and the fact that, small business owners are being, I'll say, discriminated against and in favor of big box stores. And, we know that 80% of our economy, give or take, is small business owners. So you're basically destroying the American economy, the American family, the American worker, and it's got to stop. I'm 100%. We must not constrict. In fact, we need to open wide open, 100% open. So I want to talk about Bear the Burden, Danny. I got the why you started Bear the Burden, and we got the mission of it, but why does it matter? I mean, what can you guys do with this Bear the Burden, and how many members do you have right now?
Well, the reason I started Bear the Burden is I go back, and again, the Bear Burden has nothing to do with the gym industry other than the fact of the matter that it's about a business. But I go back to what happened to that gym owner in New Jersey, where he stood alone. I do believe it's a violation of constitutional rights to tell a business owner what they can do to provide for them their own livelihood, especially at the expense that the government isn't giving you any money anyway. And because he stood alone, he was picked apart, right? And we've seen this over and over again, whereas business owners have tried to stand up, but they stood alone and they were picked apart.
And let me say this, $5,000 for any of us right now as a fine, which is what the governor implemented, is crushing. It would crush me right now to get a $5,000 fine. So they basically forced us into a corner where we can't fight. Go ahead.
And so what I said was listen, there's strength in numbers. So right now we have over 1,000 members in the Facebook group. My goal is by Monday to make this an actual more official standing. The website is almost completed. I mean, when I said I feel like I started a little late, the truth of the matter is I waited until I started seeing these restrictions and things coming down. And I wish I had started beforehand and prepped for it, right? But the goal here is we are going to be, we have a pledge where businesses will stand in solidarity, and we're going to be asking for all small businesses to donate $1,000. We're doing the same thing, putting our money where our mouth is. Brett Hess has donated $5,000 because his business isn't as affected by it, but most of his clients are small businesses. And when you talk about the backbone of America, small business accounts for 99% of all business in America. 99%. We employ over 60 million people. If we follow what happened in Jersey and a third of America's small businesses go out of business, we're going to unemploy 19,998,989 people. What do you have? Even if you're a business that survives, if that many people don't have a job, what was the purpose of living through 2020 when you're in a barren wasteland of ghost towns?
And nobody can buy your product or service because they don't have any money.
Exactly.
Right.
And so for me, one of the things that we started Bear the Burden side of the house is, listen, in interest of full disclosure, I've never taken Frederick past 25%. So I didn't start this because all of a sudden you put me at 25%, right? The government told me the government didn't need to tell me anything. These members are family for me, right? My employees are family for me. I'm going to take the necessary precautions anyway. Who do you think cares more about the customer? The business owner that's shaking hands every day with the people that come in through the door, or pre-COVID, shaking hands with people that came through the door, or that large conglomerate big box like Walmart that, by the way, they're in the top 4 in every state in America for their employees to be in on SNAP and Medicaid. Who do you think cares more about them? Us or them, right? And so for me, that was the side of it, is we start to see this huge redistribution of wealth where we take it away from the small business owner, which that is the key to the American dream, in my opinion, is the ability to go out and build your own thing and employ your fellow community members and provide a meaningful living for it. What happens when we kill that? And so Bear the Burden was due there. So the money that we're asking for is ultimately going to go to retaining a law firm and going after the constitutionality of these type of effects.
Do you expect to get financial remuneration for damages?
I don't think
pay these business owners that money. I mean, in other words, $1,000 right now for anybody in business trying to make it would be a lot of money.
It is, but it's $1,000 is a lot for me. But at the same time, you have two choices, right? You decide that you're going to actively go in and fight. And I believe you have to win this on a legal field. I believe that ultimately is where the battle is going to be won or lost. Or you can sit around and just complain all day. It ain't going to get anything else. We saw this when we called in. I was on a phone call with the county council. We were on that phone call, and I'm not going to even get into they can tell me what they want to. I believe it was deliberate, how they changed that meeting around, didn't do it with proper public notice, and watched as they listened to 3 hours of testimonials from small business owners calling in, being respectful, explaining the reality of all of this, and had them, cut it off because it was getting late. Well, the rent's been late.
Oh, well, hold on, Danny. I got to stop you there because when I sat through the recording, or actually the live event of the Board of Health, painful meeting that went on and on and on, asking the same question 14 different ways. And that was just painful. And they made us continue through that. So the fact that they would cut you guys off is outrageous.
Yes.
So I want to just move us through something. So how many members do you currently have?
In the group, we're at 1,137.
Awesome. How can people get involved with Bear the Burden?
They can go to Facebook. They can look up Bear the Burden on Facebook. Make sure you answer all the questions because we will not approve you in the group if you don't answer all the questions. They can answer all the questions and then join there. The website is in its final phase. I actually have my very first check donation in my hand to go into it from a local business. I have other businesses that have already pre-committed to it. And listen, my goal at the end of the day is just to get, is for us to just start off with $100,000 in the bank account. I think it's very possible to do. You don't have to be a business owner to donate. You don't have to donate $1,000. We understand that all businesses can't donate that. We're going to ask you to donate what you can. But my challenge to every business out there and to every person that supports small business is there's a time to talk and there's a time to take action. And, we're on the thing, but the old saying about money talks and something else walks. It's time to, it's time to get out there, man. You got to put skin in the game. You got to fight. You can't sit on the sidelines because they proved to me on that meeting, here in Frederick County, the governor in California, the mayor in LA, the governor in PA, all of them that put all these draconian rules in place, but then they go and do what they want to do in violation of their own rules. They don't care about you. And if all you do is complain, you might as well spit in the wind because it's not going to change anything. So,
Danny, we're going to wrap up here. And I just want to thank you for taking the, fight for the people to the government, because it's like you said, it's a bit like David and Goliath, right?
Yep.
And what I'd like to do is have an opportunity to bring people back. But I think that it's important that everybody who's listening, to Danny's point, you may not be a business owner, but you buy services from business owners. So you're like if we want our restaurants to survive, we got to support them, right? Well, right now, if we want different businesses to be around in the next 10 years or 5 years or 2 months, we have got to support them. So please try and donate to the organization. What's the place where they donate again?
They can go to, I'll put it out here now, just don't judge the website. It's still getting finished out, but you can actually still donate at this point. If you go to beartheburdencoalition.org, the donate option and everything is up there. We just got our final up. We got a placeholder logo on there right now, so it's not the official logo. We'll be updating that soon, but they can go there and donate. We are an incorporated entity already, and we are in the process of waiting for our nonprofit approval. So everything is on the up and up, and 100% any bit of help that we can have, we would appreciate it. I also would like to leave with this challenge. Whether you're for restrictions or against restrictions, you can be for this movement. Because if you're against lockdowns or restrictions, then you believe that all businesses should be open up, right? If you're for restrictions and you're for lockdowns, then you should be equally for Walmarts, Targets, Home Depots, that they've got to be within the capacity restrictions of the small business, so that it's just not all willy-nilly and everybody gets to do what they want to do, irregardless of the consequences. Both of those people can coalesce around the goal that everybody needs to share this burden equally.
Well said. Thank you so much, Danny, for all you're doing for small business. God bless you. And let us know how we can keep people informed. We'll have you back again to talk about your progress. You're listening to Success Happens. We're going to go